question, what are the best films that utilize the Meet the Parents subgenre of comedy? I think the first thing that will come to your mind is probably Meet the Parents, but a few others might come to mind as well, including the Bryan Cranston film Why Him, and of course the film that for whatever reason I was forbidden to watch when I was younger, Guess Who? Starring Bernie Mac and Ashton Kutcher. I've always had a soft spot for this film over the years, but let's get cracking. Guess Who is a 2005 comedy starring the likes of Ashton Kutcher, Zoe Saldana, and Bernie Mac. Ashton and Zoe play a young couple deeply in love, going to meet her parents for the very first time. The only problem there is that she neglected to mention to her parents that her boyfriend is indeed white. Dun dun dun. And so from there on out, her dad, played by Bernie Mac, goes all out trying to find all the flaws in this white guy. So, before I give off the idea that this is my favorite comedy about meeting the in-laws for the first time, it's not. That mantle is definitely given to Meet the Parents without hesitation, but I would probably say I prefer it much more than either sequel to Meet the Parents or the Bryan Cranston film, so in a way I might even consider this to be the second best Meet the Parents comedy out there. It should be mentioned that I haven't actually seen the original film for which this is remade out of, that original film of course being Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. In that film, it's the opposite. Instead of a white man being brought home to a black family, it's a black man going to a white family. In both scenarios, from what I understand, a majority of the jokes go off of the basis of race. Now, the original film came out in the 60s, at a time that not only racism was a major issue in the world, I mean it still is, but interracial relationships were entirely rare. In fact, it was actually illegal in 17 states when that film came out, which, when you think about that, that's just insane. So that was probably much more impactful than this film is, but I still think that this is a lot of fun. Needless to say, when it comes down to this film in 2005, it's not trying so hard to confront current social issues as much as it is reversing the model of the original film in order to make an audience laugh on a much more shallow level. The main thing that I get out of it is that it's making fun of racism at best, but even so, this is a film that I highly doubt that could be made today, because we just get offended by everything. There was once a time that the only people who got offended at a stand-up comic, for instance, would be the person the comic was targeting. But in a way, the world has become a lot more sympathetic, I want to say, or even empathic, and we now get offended at anything that can be perceived as offensive in any way, shape, or form by somebody else. There's plenty of people that unfortunately would watch this movie and consider it to be racist towards the white guy, which is stupid, but I've seen it. We all have. Regardless of all that, I still really like this movie. I always have. A big part of it is because I've always been a pretty big fan of Bernie Mac, and this came out just 3 years before he died, which is crazy to think about, but he's great in the movie. His charisma opposite Ashton Kutcher is hilarious because half the time he doesn't even have to say a single word. He just has to shoot a look over in anybody's direction, and that look says 1,000 words. That was Bernie's talent. He had a way with his words, stance, and look. I mean, there's a reason why he had his own sitcom. Without him, this film just wouldn't work as well as it does. Overall, I think that the film worked a lot better the year it came out. But even for today's standards, I would say that people could still get a kick out of it. But at the end of the day, I scored Guess Who a B+ letter grade final overall score of 80%, 80 out of 100 possible stars. It's solid, you know, it's a solid comedy. But as I always say, comedy is subjective. So what might work for me may not work the same for you. Just keep that in mind. But what about you guys though? Have you seen Guess Who? If you have, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below and what your favorite Meeting the In-Laws for the very first time comedy is. As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.